fantastic, that trilogy. But you've been drawing Bill for, I don't know, 6 years now. I wanted to know what your relationship to him was. Is he you? Is he someone you know? Is he an idea that you know or are getting to know?
Thanks. You know, I hesitate to say it's autobiographical because then everyone's gonna get the wrong idea and they think something's very wrong with me. But I think every writer, you write what, you take things from life and you weave them into what you're writing. I think that's very common for anybody who does any form of writing. And so there's that. I mean, it's what I'm afraid of. It's things I'm interested in anyway. It's things that I would like to see in a film myself. I think, but by and large, you know, well, for instance, like every dream Bill has in all three of the movies are dreams that I had, and I never really realized that until it was all over. But like the dream with the seal and the soccer ball, that was like verbatim. The rocket ship and the ice cream bars, it just happened that way. But and then a big chunk of it is from my journal. I have a journal that I've kept online for since 1999, I think, and it's a really good resource to have to steal from yourself. I think if anyone would sit and read the journal from start to finish, you'd stumble across scenes from almost every film, things that I overheard in the supermarket, in the parking lot. And that's true of I think all the films I've made. I think a friend of mine was was living in an extended stay America for reasons we won't go into for a long time. And when I went to visit him, the lobby was kind of like this glass structure with really weird reverberating sounds inside. And I turned to him and I said, "You live in a giant bucket." And I wrote that down, and it's been rejected, and just things like that. You know, it's taking notes because I do have. I will say this: I do have a very bad memory, and I think not as bad as this, but a lot of writers. I forget 90% of things, and so I'm surrounded by post-it notes. And I'm constantly jotting things down and saving them, and that's what the journal's good for. And I think, yeah, I'll stop there. I had another thought, but I'll save it, I guess. But I think, you know what, it's really, what I'm trying to say is the worst thing that I can do as a writer, and I don't know if this is true for other writers, but for me, the worst thing I can do is sit in front of a blank page and just say, okay, today I'm going to be creative. Like, nothing good ever comes from forcing things. It's always, you're stuck in traffic, or you're taking a shower, and you just get the ending to the movie. It's things that pop in there that you can't really explain, and I try not to, this is going to sound strange, but I try to think very much about these things, because I always get in my own way and paralyze myself if I analyze too much. It's things that just kind of feel right, and I know how pretentious artisty this can sound, but I can relate to other artists when they say that sometimes they feel strange taking credit for their own work. Because sometimes it doesn't seem like work, it doesn't seem like you're really coming up with anything, you're not really calculating anything, it's just things that you catch. And I'm convinced that the subconscious, it's like a party in your head that you're not invited to. You know, there's like a black curtain in the way, and there's velvet ropes, and you hear cool music coming out of there sometimes. And there's maybe holes in the curtain where there's lights, and you can kind of see some glimmers of things that fall out. And what I do, at least, I gather these little scraps that are kind of telegraphed from somewhere, and when it's time for me to write, it's just gathering them in some sort of form. Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
Oh, there you go. Okay, hi.
So my question was about how you draw, just in general, how you seem to convey so much emotion with a few lines. And eyes and just two little circles. He's so cute and sincere and sweet, and that's moving to me, and I want to know how that happens to come about.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, it's just the way I draw. I didn't really take any art classes. I never studied animation formally even. I went to a very traditional live action film school, but it was back when 16mm was it. And I wanted to go to film school and be like Stanley Kubrick, like everybody else, and shoot live action, and I couldn't afford it. You have to buy a lot of rolls of film to shoot live action. But if you animate your student film, you only have to buy one roll. And I couldn't afford that. And I had been drawing a ton since I was little, not too different looking from this. And my brother kind of drew like that, my big brother, and I wanted to be like him probably, and I copied his style of drawing these stick things. And I animated a lot in high school, and that helped me survive high school. And I kind of just carried that over to 16mm film school just because I could afford it. And so I still feel sort of like a wannabe live action filmmaker who just happens to draw. I feel strange. I almost feel like it's a disservice to animators who studied to call myself an animator because I didn't go to Cal Arts, and I'm making a lot of this up as I go. But Bill has been interesting because of all the minimal characters that I have drawn. He is, like you said, probably the most minimal. He's just a circle with a couple of dots and a line. And I've realized that, excuse me, it's how much more difficult that is than if Bill had 1,000 moving parts. How much more difficult it is to work with less to make that couple of dots in a line look thoughtful or pensive or what have you. I'm convinced that if one of Bill's eye dots is a millimeter this way or a millimeter that way, his entire expression shifts, at least for me. And so it's very interesting and microscopic. You know, everything all of a sudden becomes amplified, and every little line and every dash suddenly becomes much more critical because that's all that's there. But yeah, I've only taken Art 1 in high school, like all of us. It was taught by the shop teacher. He was like this really gruff old guy, kind of strange, kind of dopey. And I only remember two things from Art 1. First, he didn't trust rulers, which is strange because he also taught shop. If you wanted to know the middle of a piece of paper, he'd just say, you don't need to measure it, you just fold it over. Just take the piece of paper and just fold it over. And if you want to know the middle of that, you just fold it again. And he had the only other thing I remember, he had a massive paper cutter. Have I told you this? I don't think I've. It's this massive industrial-sized fierce paper cutter. And this girl was using it one day, and she chopped off the top of her finger. And I don't think she got much bone. How did she got much bone? But just like, it was like the top third of her painted nail. And she fainted, and they got like a wheelchair out, and she was wheeled to the school nurse. And this teacher, he was like, okay, everybody, she's gonna be fine. You know, calm down, get back to your folding. And I'm not making this up. Her fingertip was still sitting there on the cutting board. And he regarded it, and he picked it up, and he threw it away. It was almost like a basketball shot, just like, and my friend and I we were sitting in the front, and we were just like, I think they could save that. I think we could get like a cup of ice and put that in the ice. We could take that to the hospital. And I think, these days with some like leeches and like lasers, they could put that back on her. They could put that back on her. And he looked at us and he said, no, they can't. So we finished the day with her fingertip in the waste paper basket. And I know that was the only art class I ever took, and that was